Good evening, everyone. First, I want to say, Laurie, thank you for the introduction. Dave, thank you for the introduction. I tell you, over the years here, I missed a lot of time by living abroad and just finally closed that chapter in November. So I am very happy to be here and very happy to do this. John Kistler has spent most of his life at Church Farm School. He grew up in the Church Farm School faculty home. As his father, the late Jack Kistler worked at the school for 26 years, beginning in 1968. John became part of the CFS community while a student at Henderson High School in Westchester. Helping out at the farm during the summers, he continued this through college, and in 1980 became a math teacher. He was also my math teacher, so. As well as serving as a coach for nearly every sport and introducing the baseball, golf, and winter track programs to the school. As the school's varsity coach from 1980 to 1992, he led the Griffins to 10 KSAC playoffs and 2 championships from 1980 to 1982. He eventually went on to serve as athletic director, director of student life, ran the summer camp for 17 years, plus he co-founded the CFS Wrestling Invitational, which recently celebrated its 30th year. John was also instrumental in the creation of the Founders Pavilion, this facility right here, which was completed in 1996 and was an integral part of the school's Middle States accreditation team. John raised his own family at Church Farm School while also becoming family to hundreds of students over the past 3 decades. He has been known to drive out of his way to visit alumni in college even after retiring last year. And he continues to support the school's golf, basketball, and wrestling teams. He, his wife, his mother, his sister, many of his family members are omnipresent cheerleaders for the school. Before I give this to Coach, because that's what I call him, he's John Kistler. To me, he's always Coach. Coach, I promised myself I wouldn't do this. As a student here, from 1985 to 1988, I came here because of some things and issues going on at home. My brother was the first one the year before, and then I followed. And I had so many great teachers here. Mr. Smith, who's here today, Mr. Kistler's brother-in-law. These men were able to show me and my brother. Besides my grandfather, these were the men and the other faculty here who showed me how to be a man. He led by example. His daughters were babies at the time. He has 3 now. And he's the one, even when I get in trouble here. Wasn't many or often, but I did get in trouble sometimes. He'd be the one who come talk to me. He'd be the one to be that comic voice. And I never forget, after leaving here and going to Lehigh University. While I excelled on the basketball court, I struggled in school. My mother didn't know what to do with me about that, and neither did my coach. So one day I'm coming out of the coach's office. He called me to his office at Lehigh, my head coach. My head coach, Dave Duke, who just finished his career at Temple University with Fran Dunphy. And I never forget, I was in Taylor Gym where the coach's offices were, and I leave out of the office and here comes Coach Kistler. And I'm like, what are you doing here? I didn't know my head coach had called him because I needed a prep talk about it's not all about basketball. You came to this university. This man helped me pick the university, actually. When you go through things in life, sometimes you need people. I needed Coach. I needed John Kistler. He helped me. He helped me understand what it meant to always apply yourself. Always. Not halfway, not 3/4 of the way, but it was about applying 100% all the time. Your example as a man, a husband, a father, a son, it was something that touched not only myself, but also my brother, who's no longer here with us. And the both of us, even though we had a grandfather who was a great father figure, but you were the one closest in age to our father, who we didn't always have a great relationship. And actually it was from watching your example that helped my brother and I try to repair our relationship with our own father. You gave us that example. So, with further ado, please join me in honoring John's decades of service to Church Farm School, his decades of service to all the students, the faculty, and the staff. And I will say this before presenting Coach with this award. The CFS faculty, whether you know it or not, the impact that you have on a young man's life for the rest of his life is real. Because this man has impacted my life forever. Please join me in honoring Coach John Kistler.
Since this is the only award tonight, I have, it's really hard to follow that, Dozie. It's Dozie to me. I know he became Dozie somewhere along the line. But I really appreciate your words. Thank you. Luckily, he covered most of my speech, so I'll cut out the middle, but I got to hit the beginning and the end. First of all, I'm very honored to receive the Newt Disney Alumni Award for service. I met Newt about 10 years ago at an Alumni Weekend, and I must say he made quite an impression. Immediately I found out that we had something in common. We both coach varsity basketball. And learning more and more each year at alumni events, it is clear how loved and respected he was by his peers and the entire CFS community. To receive an award in his name is quite humbling. I was blessed to spend 50 years of my life at CFS, beginning as a 12-year-old faculty brat, summer farm worker, faculty member, day camp director, coach, director of athletics, director of students. As a young teacher, I got to work alongside many outstanding mentors, such as Charlie Schreiner and my father, Jack Kistler. Both men left huge impressions on me regarding work ethic and integrity. As an athletic director, I had the joy of seeing our students benefit from the outstanding coaching of Art Smith, Marc Turner, Eric Horsey, Jason Whipple, and Greg Thompson, just to name a few. As a basketball coach, working alongside my good friend Bill Wenzel, seeing one of my daughters rolling a ball out on the court during a crucial point in the game. That's Caitlin. Hearing the chants, now this is kind of old school, but some of you may remember, CFS, the baddest team from east to west, and they used to ring in the rafters. Or the more classic, defense, uh-oh, defense, uh-oh. Seems like just yesterday. I'd be remiss if I did not thank a number of people for helping me through the marathon we call working at a boarding school. First and foremost, my wife, Marilyn, could not have made it through without her love and support. My three daughters, Lindsay, Caitlin, and Jackie, who were always able to put a smile on my face even after a particularly difficult day. Ned Sherrill, for allowing me to return to the classroom at the end of my career. The men and women of CFS that work so hard 24/7 to help our students transition into outstanding men. And finally, to the Alumni Society leadership team of Lori, Steph, and Dave. You have helped make the Alumni Society and its connection to the school stronger than ever. May you continue to find additional ways to positively affect the life of your school. And so, Alumni Society, thank you again for this offer, this honor. It's so very special to be recognized by the men that meant so much to me as boys. Thank you.
Very much, Dave. Got a little dusty in here for a little bit. We'll have to work on that. Good evening, all. My name is Greg Thompson. I'm the athletic director here at Church Farm School, and I'm honored to introduce the inductions for the 2019 class of the CFS Hall of Athletic Honor. It is absolutely wonderful to see so many Griffins and even Aggies here tonight, and I hope you've been able to reconnect with many people and reflect on your time on campus. I certainly hope that the athletic program you see is familiar to you, even if it's a bit different. Our assistant AD, Tom Johnstone, class of '09, and I make every attempt to continue the proud traditions that many of you established and that remain important to you today. In addition to our traditional sports, we're always trying to innovate, including recent afternoon editions of lacrosse, bowling, robotics, season-long career placements at AGI, an aerospace firm in our neighboring corporate park, and a couple seasons of theater and community service clubs as well. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to tour our renovated gym, and we deeply appreciate the generosity of many in the room who made that possible. We're excited to have our sights set on a few projects in the coming years, including our weight room, baseball field upgrades, and a full remodel of our Hall of Athletic Honor, gallery, and plaques, which have taken their fair share of wear and tear over the years in a busy hallway full of energetic boys. You can see some prototypes up here on the table. It's not a finished product, but we're hoping that the next time you're back for the ceremony, that's all ready to go. The 5-member committee that reviewed nominations and finalists for this year's Hall class has well over 100 collective years of service to Church Farm School. 2 Hall of Athletic Honor members, Mr. John Kistler and Mr. Art Smith, two alums, Mr. Tom Johnstone and Mr. Bart Bronk, and our wonderful Director of Alumni Relations, Mrs. Lori McDermott. We are grateful to them for their work, as well as our entire development office for this event, especially Mrs. Stephanie Claypool, has been helped significantly every step of the way. Thank you all very much. The first hall inductions were made in 2006 and have continued 2 or 3 at a time, approximately every other year since then. The CFS Hall of Athletic Honor is named quite intentionally. It's not a hall of fame or accomplishments, not the most talented athletes, the ones with the most records. Make no mistake, they're accomplished athletes, but that success is a result of a relentless pursuit of excellence, honorable competition, hard work, and a commitment to the school and their teams. Tonight's inductees are top-tier honorees, and we couldn't be more excited to have them joining our Hall of Athletic Honor. To present our first inductee, please welcome longtime CFS coach, Mr. Art Smith. The inductee is Nana Atakora-Bediako. Art and Nana, please come forward.
Good evening. It's great to be here. It's great to see so many alums back. Good thing. Skeeter Hutchinson, congratulations on your award. When's the last time you called Skeeter? A week ago. Okay, good. Because I felt badly. I'm like, should I call him Byron? No. Your award is well deserved. You're a great role model. I hope your sons appreciate you. Yes? All right, good. Coach Turner, congratulations to you. You obviously deserve this award, but more importantly, as you are leaving, we always have room for a wrestling coach, right? Okay, I know. But I guess most importantly is you leave a void on your departure, not just on the basketball court, but in the heart of Church Farm School. You have touched so many young men and made them better people. So congratulations to you. So I'm lucky tonight. One is I haven't seen Nana Atakora-Bediako. Is that a great name or what? Nana Atakora-Bediako. Many wrestling tournament people could not get that right. I haven't seen him in a long time. How long, Nana? 10 years, 15 years? But I keep in touch with him on social media, so I watch what he's doing. He's doing a great job. So in a minute, I'm going to read all his athletic accomplishments. But as Mr. Thompson said, that's not it. It's not Hall of Fame. It's Hall of Honor. And Nana, as you look at him, he's a good-looking young man, but he's a great young man. And he just did great things. At least I was his wrestling coach, and I was pretty close to him. Always came to practice ready to go. Never late, except maybe once or twice. But never late. Great teammate. Always went after things, and just was phenomenal to coach. Helped his brother a lot. Helped other teammates become better. And that's really what Hall of Honor inductee should be. I'm really proud of him, and I'm so glad he's here. I guess there was one small problem with sports we'll talk about. Should we talk about that? It's a district semifinals. Were you winning? Yeah, you were winning with 5 seconds to go, but I'm not going to bring that up. I'll let Nana talk about that. If you're in the class of 09, if you are one of his coaches, Coach Horsey, Coach Williams, would you come up here and help me? So Nana was a 3-sport athlete at Church Farm School, excelling in soccer, wrestling, and track. He's one of the school's first district place winners for wrestling, finishing his career with more than 80 wins, and was a district champion in the long jump and triple jump. Nana was the school's first PIAA state medalist in the triple jump, finishing second. Still holds the long jump record at 46.5 and a half. And just so we put that in perspective, the winning long jump at districts today or yesterday was 40 feet. Pretty awesome, but once again, it's not Hall of Fame, it's Hall of Honor. And now I am pleased to award you Church Farm Schools Hall of Honor.
I'm gonna keep it brief. I just wanted to thank a couple people. I wanted to thank Mr. Kistler, Mr. Smith, Coach Williams, Coach Horsey, the school itself. I obviously, well, not obviously, but I don't play sports anymore, but there's a lot of transferable skills that I got from the sports that I did play. And I mean, most of the sports I did play were individual sports, and that taught me that basically you have to work hard, because you can't blame anyone when you lose if you didn't put the hard work in. So that's what I'll leave whoever needs to hear that with today, is work hard. And you know, there's gonna be times when, you know, maybe it's harder than it should be, but if you just keep pushing, you're gonna, you know, end up, you know, where you want to be. I also like to thank Coach Horsey in particular for introducing me to the head coach at the school that I got a scholarship from. So thanks for that, because that was a good, you know, I got some scholarship money from that. So thank everybody.
Dr. Ken Fordham. Gentlemen, please come forward.
Thank you. Well, I'm telling you what, I'm going to take a second here and ask Mr. Kistler to come up here, since we're bringing people up to put these awards on. It certainly makes sense for his coach to do this. Good evening and hello everyone. What an absolute privilege it is for me to stand up here tonight. Yogi Berra once said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. Well, on my road in life, I was lucky enough to know tonight's honoree. My name is Ken Fordham, as you just heard, and I'm honored to introduce the latest inductee into the Church Farm Hall of Athletic Honor, Mr. Byron, as we know him, Skeets Hutchinson. To reference someone as an old or original goat certainly has some negative connotations. But Byron, or Skeets as many of us call him, is certainly one of Church Farm School's premier goats. He played 3 other sports, but basketball is his game. What makes today's event even more special as he enters the hall is it's the same night that Mr. Kistler is being honored. Byron grew up in West Philadelphia, which has much to do with who he is. His well-rounded character was born both on the streets of the city and the halls of Church Farm School. I first met Byron through the Big Brothers, Big Sisters group. Byron being raised by a wonderful, caring grandmother, Grace Lawson. He was 12 years old, and I was only a little bit older, being a dental student at Penn. Grace was determined not to let the tough streets grab her grandson, as she has seen so many other young men get caught up in that dangerous dynamic. As a result of his grandmother's love, Byron's daily routine was regimented around church, school, and chess. As an avid basketball player myself, I wanted to introduce a little free play into Skeets' life. I wouldn't have called Skeets an athlete at the time, although chess sure did bring out his competitive juices. He always enjoyed beating me. It didn't take too long before I sought Grace's permission to introduce Skeets to a couple of my friends. My high school Conestoga basketball teammates, Dave Scanlon and Bruce Hager, both of whom are here tonight. We started hanging around them more often, and they spent many hours with us, befriending Skeets and becoming role models themselves. They taught him the art of basketball, and there is an art to basketball. They were even instrumental in helping raise money needed for his tuition here at Church Farm School as I was eating bean sandwiches trying to get through dental school. Selling a bike to raise money and then donating the bike back in order to throw more money in the pot to help cover his costs. Before Byron was passed on to CFS, these buddies of mine made it a point that Skeets be a player who had no offhand. As a result of this, other teams had difficulty with this point guard on the court who could shoot with either hand, a West Philadelphia ambidextrous threat. Maybe the most important friendship and relationship formed a year after our meeting when I met and introduced Skeets to my future wife, Suzanne. She did more that can, excuse me. She did more than can be expressed, both on and off the court. Suzanne helped Skeets become the wonderful husband and father we know today. And just so you know, she's still working on me. At CFS, Mr. Kistler, Byron's basketball coach, took the reins with a firm but gentle hand. Church Farm's own Coach K believed in Skeets, starting him at point guard for the Keystone League championship team as a sophomore. As Skeets became stronger in all aspects of his game, he became the leader in assists, points, and rebounds as a junior and senior. Coach K said, "My style was to walk the ball up and run offensive sets. But had I let him go at today's pace, then Skeets would have scored a whole lot more points." Coach K called Skeets his first really good shooter, his coach on the floor, and the guy who had all the right instincts. When asked to sum up Byron, Coach used the word impressive. Yes, he was a great basketball player, but more importantly, his overall being with teammates, with coaches, and with teachers was exemplary. The great UCLA basketball coach, John Wooden, once said, "In the end, it's all about teaching." What I loved about coaching was the practices, not the games, not the tournaments, not the alumni stuff. But teaching the players during practice was what coaching was all about to me. Skeets, as we call him, was very well coached. Thanks, Mr. Kistler. Basketball is the ultimate team game, requiring quick communication in order to swiftly change from offense to defense and back. You have to recover quickly when you lose your grip, and even more so, you have to have the backs of those you're playing with. Few other sports or activities prepare you quite literally for the challenges of life the way basketball does. We all need friends and mutually beneficial relationships to connect with, and basketball became that connection for Byron. Through many generations and different eras, the names and faces change, but the shared experiences, particularly here at Church Farm School, are constant. After 35 years, I will forever be grateful for the fork in the road that led me to Grace Lawson and Skeets Hutchinson. Byron, basketball is the reason I've been asked to stand here tonight, but I feel the deepest pleasure in knowing how you've become a friend, a father, and a husband. I thank the Lord that I met a person like you. In many ways, your living life well has helped shape me and my family and so many others as men and women we are today. I thank you. And here's my best part. I watched this on TV a million times. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Church Farm School Basketball's original GOAT, which stands for the greatest of all time. When he graduated, the team's all-time leading scorer, number 21, Byron Skeets Hutchinson.
So, thank you, Ken. Thank you, Mr. Kistler. I want to just say that I wasn't expecting this, but it's an honor. I'm thrilled to be on the Athletic Hall of Honor with folks like Dozie and Brett, and I'm drawing blanks on some of the other names, but it's definitely an honor just to be inducted into the class and be able to join the other honorees that have been inducted in over the years. I want to say I'm glad to have my wife Kelly and my sons Tate and Bryce here, and Susie and Casey, Ken's son, and Maria, and Bruce and Peggy, and Dave and his wife, and it's just people who were very instrumental in my upbringing before I, when I got here and the whole time I was here, and even after I graduated. And we're family today, and I love them all dearly. I also like to say I wish my Nana and my mother and Mrs. Schumann, when Ken and Susie dropped me off, it was tough. I was never away from my grandmother, my mother, my aunts before. Mrs. Schumann put me in a room right across from her room so she could keep an eye on me. And she was my mom, for 4 years. She took care of me, So, I thank Ken and Susie for seeing enough in me to want a better education. I'm gonna thank Dr. Schreiner for accepting me, Mr. Kistler's dad, Jack. Also, where's that angel? I wanna thank my teammates. It wouldn't have been possible without them. I had a lot of good friends, but they were teammates, and they would give me a lot of positive encouragement off the court to step up, be a leader. And I want to thank Mr. Kistler for giving me the opportunity to be a leader on the team. One of the things that I always cherished was coming back on Sunday nights and playing pickup games. That was very competitive. I don't know if they still do that today as a tradition, but when we were here, you got back from weekend, you go to dinner, and then you go to the gym on Sunday, and you get it on, you play. And that set your gauge for what you would do when basketball started. And I want to thank Ken's dad, Dr. Fordham, because into my freshman year, I did some yard work for him, and he sent me to a basketball camp at Millersville with the Wally Walker camp. And I got a lot of confidence there that summer. And I came back, and when we got down to that gym, that first weekend back, I knew it was gonna happen. And I was looking forward to the season. I also ran cross country. I wanna thank Mr. Bailey, who was a cross country coach then. My teammates, Doug Von Nessen and Andy Zennis. First year at cross country, didn't really like it too much. Very lonely sport. But Doug and Andy Zennis convinced me my sophomore year to get up with them before school started at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and we would go running every morning, and our times dropped precipitously over that course of that year. I think all three of us probably placed in the PSAC that year. I was in the top 10 or top 5, I think, I don't even know, but we killed it that year. And that was one of the things I took away from Church Forum was the ability to compete, whether it was in the classroom. If you didn't have good grades, you heard about it, and you wanted to be like, like the guys who had the good grades, because they would post them on the wall. So you knew what type of work you needed to put in to even have a chance to be up there. So, you know, CFS, as I'm sure every young man who's come through here, whether you graduated or not, you know what it means to you. It taught you a lot. It taught you how to be accountable. It taught you how to compete. It taught you integrity. It taught you how to get along with people who were different than you. You know, I came from West Philly, and you know there wasn't a lot of diversity there. I got here, there was diversity, and you didn't get along with everybody, but you did respect them. They grew to respect you, and I'm friends with a lot of those guys now. We're lifelong friends, so times in my life that I'll never forget. This is not related to sports, but one of the things my family always laughs about is I told them I used to drive a 666 International tractor at the pig farms, and that was one of the biggest highlights of my life when Ray gave me those keys. And some of you guys might know who Ray is, but Ray took care of, you know, managed the workers for the farm after lunch, after school. And I got the keys from Dave Cashmere, and you know, I never looked back. And it was something I knew I wanted to aspire to do for that job, because shoveling the pig manure in the barns was just something that I didn't really take too well. So I was like, I got to drive that tractor so I can get everybody else to clean that stuff up. You know, I love everything that CF stands for. There were years when I didn't get back as often as I should, and I still don't get back as often as I should. I was here, like, I guess a year and a half ago for Alumni Weekend. It seems like there's always something going on, but you know, I've always said to myself, I got to make it a point to come back. So many good memories every time I step on this campus. Just candid conversations, whether it was with Dr. Schreiner or his son Terry, or Mr. Kistler, or his dad, Jack Kistler. That was the one thing they never held back. They always told you how it was, and I appreciated that. And I tried to pass that on to my sons. You might not like it sometimes, but it was always the best thing for me. So, I think I covered everything. Yeah. I didn't think I would get emotional, but you set me off, man. I'm sitting there watching you, I was like, gosh, what's he doing? But no, it's good. It's good to be emotional, good to cry sometimes, I guess. And you know, I couldn't be happier. So you know, with that, I'm gonna say thank you again, and Hutchinson out.
All right, our third inductee tonight is our longtime basketball coach, Mr. Marc Turner, be inducted by his former player and longtime assistant, Mr. Ryan Dunbar.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to stand up here and take a few minutes to talk about Coach Turner. I've known Coach for about 18 years. I was not only fortunate enough to play a year for him, but also sit beside him as an assistant coach for the past 13 seasons. To say Coach deserves this honor would be a vast understatement, and not necessarily for the reasons that most people would think. Yes, I can stand up here and talk about the accomplishments of the CFS basketball program under his watch, his 376 career wins, although again, I think technically about 5 of those are mine, so, all right. Winning 6 district championships and 3 other finals appearances, reaching the state tournament 9 out of 11 years, with 4 trips to the state quarterfinals, winning 3 BAL championships and 1 BAL tournament championship, to go along with a couple of KSAC championships as well. His 3 All-Area Coach of the Year awards, and how he's helped send kids to play college basketball at such schools like Connecticut, St. Louis, Temple, Davidson, St. Peter's, and Syracuse. But with Coach, it was never about that. I could also talk about how twice he took over a struggling program and both times turned the program into one of the most respected basketball programs in not only the area, but in the state. He gave the team an identity. We were going to play hard. We were going to play defense. And we were going to share the ball. We were also going to play anyone. And in Coach's perfect world, we were going to play them on the road. Under his watch, we had regular season games against Chester, Coatesville, Plymouth Whitemarsh, Roman Catholic, Harrisburg, and Archbishop Carroll. That's a who's who's of high school basketball in this area. It's not bad for a small single-A school. But again, with Coach, it was never about really any of that. So what is it about? Alan Stein is a respected high school strength conditioning coach turned motivational speaker, and he just came out with a book, and I'd like to share a passage with you from that. If you are a coach, you need to make a commitment to being a leader. That title is not just handed to you because you hire and fire, because you have the biggest paycheck, and because you make the final decisions. True leaders have a vision for where they're going, for where their group is going, and have developed a culture that makes everyone want to work together to get there. They have character and are committing to serving and empowering every member of the team. Above all, they care about whom they're working with and what they're doing. It is only then that they have earned the title of coach. That is Coach Marc Turner. I first met Coach around this time during my junior year. Mr. Kistler, after some questionable hires, told us that he had hired a new coach and that they wanted to meet everybody in the gym. We gathered up in the bleachers, and Coach came walking in. It took about 30 seconds for him to teach me something. He started to introduce himself, he stopped, and he called out to Charles Branch, who at the time happened to be our best player, and now that I got to know Coach, I'm 100% certain he knew exactly who he was talking to. Coach stopped and said, "Young fella, I need your eyes. When you talk to me, I'm gonna look you in the eyes. So when I talk to you, I need you to do the same." I have two great parents and other great coaches and mentors in my life up into this time. And I'm certain at one point, all of them have told me this life lesson. But for some reason, I always think of Coach. These are the type of lessons that make Coach the coach that he is. The most important thing to him in his 23 years was his relationship with his players, and was something that he truly excelled at. It didn't matter if you were the best player, the 12th man, the manager. Coach cared about who you were as a person and what was going on in your life. It was always about more than basketball. It was helping you grow as a person. The most important conversations were the ones off the court, in the locker room, on the bus, or in a McDonald's. We would have group conversations about Bernie Madoff, Diane Nye, Jesse Itzler, the stock market, what gold was doing that day, the role of 72, the most influential person of the 21st century, John Wooden's Pyramid of Success, and his legendary Martin Luther King Day speech that he took every year, all of which had a deeper meaning than what everybody thought. These and many other examples of what our players have taken from Coach, things that are way more important than learning a jump shot. Throughout the process of thinking what I was going to say about Coach, hundreds of stories came to mind. I got input for a bunch of guys, from a bunch of his former players, and frankly, there were just too many. All of them had to do with what kind of coach he was. I want to share a story tonight about what kind of person he is. It was our last home game of the year. It was our senior night, and it was a district first round playoff game as well. End of the game, we were up big. Our guys are celebrating. Nobody's really paying attention to what's going on, except for Coach. Never stopped coaching. With about 30 seconds left in the game, the other team put in a special needs student. And as the game continued, he was just standing under his basket as the ball was over here, and we were dribbling out the clock. Coach realizes, probably the only one in the gym, what's going on, and yells to our team that's dribbling the ball to give them the ball. Our kid is dribbling, not really understanding what Coach is saying, so after a few quizzical looks, he realizes what's going on. He hands the other team the ball, they come down, hand it to their teammate, and as the buzzer goes, it goes in. Everyone now realizes what's just happened. Place goes nuts, Mrs. Lenardi is overcome with emotion at the scorer's table. It was one of the best moments that I've ever been a part of. That kid was a senior, and it was the first points that he's ever scored. The story doesn't stop there. What most people don't know is the next year, we went up there to play them. As we're getting ready for the game, who walks in the gym? It's that kid. Comes running up to Coach, and Coach takes about 10 minutes to talk to him. You could tell that that moment changed that kid's life forever. Marc Turner gave a kid that he didn't know, that he didn't really owe anything to, that special moment. So just think about all the moments that he has given our guys throughout the years. He has been a coach, a mentor, a role model, a father figure, a friend, and a leader to not only hundreds of students, but also other coaches and faculty members. He has taught us how to succeed and what it means to be successful. That at the end of the day, the score doesn't matter, but being successful is the self-satisfaction of knowing that you did your best. He has taught us how to never be on time, always be early, to just be solid, to walk the board, to love the struggle, to have competitive greatness 24/7. And that once you enter his gym, you cease to exist as an individual. You're now part of the team. He showed young men their potential and how to achieve their goals. It just so happened that he was also a pretty good basketball coach. Congratulations.
Really? You know, I feel like I've created Frankenstein, because when I first met him, he never would have done something like this. So to get him to come up here and do such a great job is very rewarding. So thank you, Coach. Let me share with everyone how it started. And I know I think I'm the last speaker anyway, before we get out here, and I know it's warm. 26 years ago, I was working not far from here, Route 100 and 113 in an insurance agency. And my boss at the time, who is here, Tom, put your hand up. And my mentor, that'd be you too, put your hand up. Put on my desk in my office the classified ads of the Daily Look. And it was a Post-it, and it was circled, and it said, "See me." And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm getting fired. So I go into my boss's office, and I said, "Tom, what's going on?" And he said, "I think you should apply for that job at Church Farm School looking for a head basketball coach." And I'm thinking, what? I'm 27 years old. I didn't think I could lead anybody at the time. And I wondered, what are you talking about? So I'm thinking of every reason possible not to have to go to the interview that my boss just told me to go to. I said, "Tom, it's going to mean that I'm not going to be at work at 5 o'clock every day. I got to leave early because practice probably starts after high school. School year's over." He says, "Go." So I go and I called Mr. Kistler and I said, "Yeah, I'd like to apply for the job. My boss is telling me to call you. So if you want to meet, let's do it." So he brings me in, we had a conversation, I leave. I remember going to him saying, "Yeah, I'm not getting that job." Mr. Kistler calls me a couple days later and says, "Look, we narrowed it down to 3 people. You're one of the 3, and I'm thinking, oh my God. Not in a good way, by the way. So I go for a second interview, we meet again. He seems like a great guy. He's become a lifelong friend of mine now, and on the ride home, I remember talking to my wife and I said, "Yeah, I'm not getting that job." I hang up and Mr. Kistler calls me and says, "You're hired." And that's where the odyssey began. So I quickly scrambled to figure out what I needed to do to be a half-decent basketball coach. And I'm here today because I share this honor with a lot of people. And that is the only reason I'm here today. First, it was because of my mentor, and my athletic director took a leap of faith on me. All right, so I need to thank them. But there was groups of other people I need to thank as well, and that's my former players first and foremost, and there's a number of them in the room. If you're a former player, put your hand up. Those guys. And there were 2 promises I made to those guys. First and foremost, I was going to care more about you as the person than I was you, the basketball player. And regardless of what happened, I was never going to get it twisted. I always cared more about you, the person. The second thing is, promise I made to them was, I'm going to make you the best player you can be. And I pledge to you that when the season's over, you'll be better than you were when it began. When your career's over, you'll be a better basketball player than you were when you began. And I make those 2 promises to you. But there's a catch. And the catch is, I'm going to demand 2 things too. I'm going to demand, and Coach stole my quote, that you cease to exist as an individual. You're now part of a team. Each and every one of you was going to be given a role. You've got to accept your role, and I want you to be a star in your role. And no one's role is more important than the next guy, right? Everyone's role is just as important. Just like me, the head coach is no more important than any of my assistant coaches. We're all important. Star in your role. The second thing I said was, you must embrace loving the struggle, because it's in the struggle that you learn the most. So don't run away from it, run towards it, because that's where growth really occurs. And like Coach said, and he stole some of my thunder, he's been around me too long. I learned how to coach because I studied John Wooden. Studied him. And I bought into his pyramid of success. And his top building block was competitive greatness. Do your best when your best is required, because only you know when your best is required. But do your best. And that's easy, first day of tryouts, November 7th or whatever. But it gets difficult in January, the dog days of January, after back-to-backs, maybe it's exam week, and I'm still going to be there telling you do your best. So that's what I demanded. Sometimes that worked, and sometimes it didn't. I remember being at Sun Valley High School, and I remember I had the flu. I think Howard, where are you at, Howard? Where are you at? I think it was his year. And we had a very talented basketball team. And I had the flu, I wasn't feeling well. We go out and play, and my team played like they had the flu. And they were selfish, they didn't share, they didn't sacrifice. They were all trying to get their own points. Everything we're not about. And we lose. And the other team celebrates like it's the Super Bowl. And we're walking into the locker room. You remember this, Coach? We're walking into the locker room. And I know they thought at that moment, Ned, I was going to become Bobby Knight. And there were some games I might have been, sort of, just a little. And I remember walking in there, and I said, I need everybody to meet me in the pavilion tomorrow at 3:15. You remember this, H? And I know they were planning on me running them until they couldn't run anymore. So I walk in, and I had our JV and varsity team, everybody in our program. Remember that? We all jammed into that team room over there. Everybody, anybody that was playing basketball here was in that room. And they're ready with their sneaks on, and they're ready to run. And I taught them block by block the pyramid of success. Remember that? Okay. And they're looking at me like, oh my God, I thought we were going to run. Who's John Wooden? Right? And we spent 3 hours teaching them the pyramid of success. So sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. So I need to thank all of my players. I share this with all of my players. I also share this with all of our assistant coaches. And you've been coaching here for 23 years. You have a lot of assistant coaches. So all of those assistant coaches who have coached for me, please raise your hand. I know there's a couple. There we go. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So anytime you've had any success, you need other soldiers on the ground that is going to tell your story, who's going to help build your culture, right? You can't be everywhere and everything to everybody. And without assistant coaches, you can't get it done. I was fortunate because the only thing that I am taking credit for tonight is the fact that I hired great people. And we're Andrew, great person, didn't know anything about basketball, sorry coach, but an unbelievable person. And I remember saying, hey, I don't care what you know about basketball, I just want to know you care. And you're going to care about these guys. That's it. We'll teach you the rest. Because if we can do that, the rest is history. So I was fortunate to have this group with such tremendous loyalty. And it's funny, I used to be a college basketball coach, and I remember being interviewed at Villanova University. It was in July, because it was near my birthday. And I'm in there with Coach Steve Lapis, the head coach at the time, and his assistants for about an hour and a half. And he has one of those whiteboards up, and he's asking me, hey, diagram, you know, shooting drills, or how you want to play man-to-man defense, or basketball stuff for an hour and a half. And then at the end, he tells me to sit down, and he says, okay, what's the most important thing for an assistant coach? And I'm thinking, I just gave you my best shot, showing you my out-of-bounds play, and all you want to talk about is that? And I thought about it, and then I said, loyalty. And he said, you're hired. So all I looked for was good people. I didn't have to teach these guys loyalty. They were just good guys and gals. I also hired one young lady for our junior varsity team. So I've been extremely fortunate, and it's about them. But they're not perfect. I remember one time we go to the Battle of the Bay down in Delaware, prestigious tournament. We're fortunate. We have Michael Eric, who's 7 foot tall, going to Temple University. We're little old CFS, and there's these unbelievable basketball programs. And Blake Griffin is playing in this tournament. Lance Stevenson is playing in this tournament, and Church Farm School. And we're out there, and I'm doing everything humanly possible. You know what I'm talking about, Coach, just to keep the score close, right? Because they just have more talent. And I remember one time out, the other team knows who we are, so they're putting 5 guys around Michael Eric. And the other 4 guys on my team, I love them to death, they weren't great basketball players. And I remember calling a timeout, and I go out, and I'm talking to my assistants while the players are huddling up. Do you remember this? And a woman comes busting into my huddle with my coaches from the stands. And she says, Coach, give Michael Eric the ball. Didn't know that. But, so my coaches let her through, so we had to have a discussion. But they're great people first, and I can't possibly thank them enough. The last group, and most important, nobody sacrificed more. So when you've been coaching 23 years, your players come and go, right? They graduate. Your coaches, life things come up, and they have to move along, as much as I hate it, okay? But it's life, it happens. But no one sacrificed more than my family, because for 23 years, every time I came to CFS, I wasn't at home. So I started to think as I was driving up here, and I had to write it down. I'm a math guy, so I started to extrapolate numbers. And I thought, wow, if you've been coaching for 23 years, about 3 hours every day for games, 3 hours for practice, that's just during basketball season, but I'm a lunatic, so we work out all the time before the season or after the season or in the fall, we're doing fall leagues. So I started playing around with some math. And I figured out that been away from these people, my family, for over 20,000 hours, right? So that means I missed bedtime stories, eating at home, being Uber drivers, dance recitals, birthdays, because all of my girls have birthdays in the winter during basketball season. So when Mr. Thompson would send out the schedule, the first thing I would do is quickly try to figure out which girl, which daughter or wife, whose birthday am I going to miss, because I need to make it right for her, right? So no one has sacrificed more for me and this award and deserves it more than my family, because they were there the whole time. We've missed, so if I take 20,000 hours and I divide it, I can't help myself, 40 hours a week, that's 9 years straight with no vacation. Think about that. That's sacrifice. So I share this with my family, with my coaches, with my players. This is about all of us. We cease to exist as an individual. We're now part of a team. Thank you.